Here at Lumisette Narratives, some stories don't just touch your heart, they shake it awake. And this one? This one is about a dog whose love was so pure, so powerful, it changed the fate of an entire family. It's the kind of story that reminds us that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they walk on for paws and love with a loyalty deeper than words. As you listen, you'll feel the quiet bond between a newborn child and the dog who watched over her from her first breath, and the heartbreaking sacrifice he made when the world around them fell apart. If your heart has ever been moved by the love of an animal, you're standing at the doorway of a story you'll never forget. Part 1. The beginning of a bond in a peaceful little neighborhood. The mornings smelled like fresh bread and sunshine lingered on every window. Stood a humble home filled with quiet dreams and warm memories. Inside that home lived a dog named Rufus, a gentle, loyal, golden-hearted companion, whose footsteps echoed softly on the wooden floors. Rufus was not born into luxury or comfort. He was found as a tiny pup shivering beside a roadside ditch, his fur muddy, his breaths weak, his eyes searching for someone, anyone, who would give him a chance at life. And that someone was Daniel. Daniel had always believed that even the smallest, most fragile life deserved love. When he held the trembling pup in his arms that day, feeling the faint beat of its frightened heart, he made a silent promise: "I'll protect you. You're safe now." From that moment, Rufus's world changed. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into years. Rufus grew stronger, braver, and endlessly affectionate. He learned the sound of Daniel's footsteps, the rhythm of his laugh, the meaning of every touch on his head. He learned that home wasn't walls or a roof. Home was love. And love to Rufus was Daniel. Wherever Daniel walked, Rufus followed. If Daniel woke up early for work, Rufus sat by his feet. If Daniel felt sad, Rufus would rest his head on his knee, offering comfort without a single word. And if Daniel laughed, Rufus's tail would wag like a happy drum, kind of wag that made the whole room feel brighter. Years passed peacefully, but then, one day, the house was filled with a new sound, a sound Rufus had never heard before. The soft and fragile cry of a newborn baby. Her name was Mia. A tiny bundle wrapped in warm blankets, with innocent eyes and the gentlest of breaths. Daniel held her close, whispering words only a father could speak. Rufus watched from the doorway, ears perked, tail still. He didn't bark. He didn't step forward. He simply observed, unsure if this little human was a guest, a stranger, or someone he was meant to protect. The first time Daniel lowered Mia toward Rufus, the dog's eyes widened. He sniffed gently, carefully, as if sensing how fragile she truly was. And in that quiet, magical moment, Mia opened her eyes and stared straight into his soul. A tiny smile curled on her lips. It wasn't much, but to Rufus, it felt like the beginning of something extraordinary. From that day on, Rufus understood this baby, this small miracle, was now family. He became her silent guardian when she slept. Rufus stayed beneath the crib, listening to her soft breaths, never letting the shadows get too close. When she cried, Rufus would rush to Daniel, barking as if sounding an alarm. "She needs help. Hurry." As she grew, crawling across the floor with clumsy joy, she often grabbed Rufus's ears, tugged on his fur, toppled onto his back. But Rufus never once flinched. Instead, he lowered his head, letting her climb like a tiny adventurer scaling a gentle mountain. Rufus wasn't just a dog anymore. He was her protector, her playmate, her first friend she would ever know. And though Mia would never remember those early years, Rufus would, because every heartbeat, every wag of his tail, every watchful glance, was filled with a love that asked for nothing in return. But life has a way of changing, and soon. Both Mia and Rufus would face a test that would reshape the meaning of loyalty forever. The seasons turned, and Mia grew from a fragile newborn into a curious little child, a girl with bright eyes and a laugh that could warm the coldest morning. Rufus, now, older and wiser, walked with her everywhere. To the backyard swing, to the kitchen, where she spilled cereal, to the garden where she tried to catch butterflies and ask silly questions about bees and flowers. Rufus understood none of her words but all of her heart, and she, even at her young age, seemed to understand him too. She would pat his head after he brought her toys, wrap her tiny arms around his neck, and whisper in her small, soft voice, "You're my good doggy, Rufus." Life was gentle, life was warm, but gentle lives often face sudden storms. It happened on a cold winter evening. Clouds hung low and heavy, darkening the sky far too early. Daniel and his wife left the house briefly to collect supplies before the storm hit. They kissed Mia's forehead as she slept and told Rufus, "Watch her, boy. We'll be right back." Rufus understood the tone, the urgency, the responsibility as the door closed behind them. The house fell silent until the first crack of thunder shattered the quiet. The storm arrived violently. Winds howled as if ancient spirits were crossing the earth. Rain slammed against the windows like fists demanding to be let in. The power flickered, then went out entirely. The entire house was swallowed in darkness. Rufus's ears perked immediately. His heart thumped faster. He stood up, pacing toward Mia's room, guided only by the faint glow of lightning through the windows. Mia stirred in her crib, then whimpered, then cried. Rufus pressed his nose against her tiny hand, trying to calm her, to let her know she wasn't alone. He lay beside the crib, curled protectively, listening to the thunder rumble like an angry giant overhead, but then a deafening crack. A tree outside, weakened by the storm, splintered and crashed into the house with a violent explosion of wood. The floor shook under Rufus's paws. The walls trembled. The ceiling in Mia's room groaned under sudden pressure. Rufus barked loudly, repeatedly calling for help that he knew would not come in time. Mia's cries grew louder. The ceiling above her crib began to crack. Slowly at first, then all at once, a rain of dust and splinters falling like deadly snow. Rufus made his choice in a heartbeat. He lunged forward, grabbing the leg of the crib with his teeth, dragging it away from the collapsing ceiling. His muscles strained, bones screaming from the effort. But he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. The house groaned again, the final warning. A massive chunk of the roof gave way and came crashing down. Rufus didn't run. He threw himself over the crib, his body creating a shield, his head tucked close to Mia's tiny chest as the world above them shattered. Debris rained down. Dust filled the air. The room shook violently, and then everything went still. Hours passed like slow, heavy breaths. At last, Daniel and his wife returned. Their hearts froze as they saw the damage. They screamed Mia's name, their voices raw with fear, their hands clawing through debris with trembling desperation. Then a tiny cry. Weak, fragile, but alive. They found Mia unharmed beneath the fallen beams, nestled inside a crib that had clearly been moved. And beside her, covered in dust, bruises, and broken pieces of the ceiling, lay Rufus, breathing but faintly. Barely Daniel fell to his knees, tears pouring down as he cradled Rufus's face in his hands. "You saved her, oh God. You saved our baby." Rufus's eyes, once bright and full of life, were tired. But they still held that same love, that same unwavering loyalty he had carried from the day Daniel first rescued him. With tremendous effort, Rufus lifted his head enough to nuzzle Daniel's hand one last time. Then his body relaxed, and his eyes slowly closed. The storm outside faded. But inside that home, a deeper storm began, one made of heartbreak, gratitude, and eternal love. Life after the storm was never quite the same. Mia survived, beautiful, healthy, untouched by the disaster that could have taken everything. But the reason she survived was something her young heart could never fully understand at that age. Daniel buried Rufus beneath the old oak tree in the backyard, the tree where Rufus used to nap in the summer, where Mia had taken her first wobbly steps, where the family had shared countless memories. It became a sacred place, a place of gratitude. In remembrance, as Mia grew older, she would often sit beneath that tree, her small fingers tracing the name on the wooden marker. Rufus, it read, carved by Daniel with trembling hands. Mia would ask, "Daddy, tell me about him again?" And every time, Daniel would smile softly, wipe a tear from the corner of his eye, and tell her everything. How Rufus saved her life. How he protected her from the moment she was born. How he had been her first friend, her silent guardian, her angel made of fur and courage. Mia listened with wide eyes and a heart too young to carry the weight of such devotion. But as the years passed, her understanding deepened. She became kinder, more empathetic, more aware of the quiet sacrifices made by those who loved her. Sometimes, late at night, she would feel something warm near her feet, a gentle presence that made her smile, as if Rufus still visited her in the quiet moments, watching over her the way he always had. Seasons turned to years. Mia grew into a teenager, then a young woman with dreams and hopes of her own. But no matter how fast life changed, one memory stayed constant. The memory of the dog who saved her life before she even understood what life meant. One day, as she sat beneath the same oak tree, now bigger and stronger than ever, she closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you, Rufus, for loving me before I even knew your name, for giving your life so I could live mine. I'll carry your heart with me wherever I go." A soft breeze rustled the leaves overhead, gentle, warm, comforting, almost like a tail wagging one last time, almost like goodbye and hello, all at once, because true loyalty never fades. True love never disappears. And some bonds, the rare ones, the sacred ones, live far beyond time. Rufus may have left the world that stormy night, but the legacy of his loyal heart continued to beat in every step Mia took, in every kindness she offered, in every life she touched, in every moment she remembered him, a loyal dog, a precious baby, a sacrifice made out of pure, unconditional love, and a story, their story, that would be told for generations. If this story moved something inside you, if, even one moment, made your eyes soften or your heart tremble, stay close to Lumisette Narratives. Join a family that feels every heartbeat hidden within every tale. Like the video if it touched you. Share it with someone who needs to remember the beauty of loyalty. And subscribe so you never miss another journey that speaks to the soul. More emotional stories are waiting for you, and we want you with us for every moment.